This week on Access Your Mastermind, we're thrilled to bring you a wonderful conversation with Liz Ring Carlson. Liz Ring Carlson has been in the insurance and financial services industry for almost 30 years and is a vice president of corporate communications, community relations, and meetings and travel. Graduating from Kansas State University with a bachelor's degree in history, Liz started her career as a claims adjuster and was able to advance her career because of her focus, results, and her dedication to personal development. She has been active in the American Marketing Association, Public Relations Society of America, and Women in Insurance and Financial Services. Driven by her passion for personal development and empowering others, especially women, Liz recently became a certified leadership and mindset coach with the Napoleon Hill Institute. Community involvement is a cornerstone of Liz's life, especially organizations that focus on education and women and children. She chairs the Lincoln, Nebraska Public Schools Superintendent's Advisory Council, serves on the University of Nebraska's President's Advisory Council, and sits on the boards of Lincoln Little's Echo Collective and Morning Hope. Liz is also passionate about civic engagement, working on campaigns, fundraising, and grassroots projects for over 25 years. And she recently supported her husband, Justin, in his successful city council race. Liz's strengths enable her to connect with people, develop effective strategies, and foster strong relationships, leading teams through change, coaching employees, and building meaningful connections with others. Now, please join me in welcoming Liz Ring Carlson to Access Your Mastermind.
There.
Hello, Liz.
Hi, Julie. It's great to be here.
Great to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thanks.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and thanks so much, Liz, for being our guest right here. So, in the book of Think and Grow Rich, in chapter 2, Napoleon Hill outlines 6 steps for developing a burning desire. The first step is to create a fixation in our minds what we truly want.
Mhm.
So, in your experience through on your personal success journey, have you personally used this formula to achieve success?
Yes, I have. So I've been with the Napoleon Hill Institute just since last year. So it's been really fun and exciting to learn about the principles and to put them in action. And I feel like this year it's been a different type of um, definiteness of purpose or desire. I feel like I've always kind of known that, like innately, like I've always been very goal orientated and kind of have had like where I want to be and how I want to design my life and create my life. But the way I went around it was very much a grind and working my tail off to always make sure that I was living up to what I expected out of myself. So whereas in the last year it's been a lot of learning what I clearly want and really thinking about that and still being persistent and still going the extra mile and still putting in the effort, but it doesn't come with the same level of stress and pressure and honestly anxiety and burnout that I've had in the past. So that's where I really feel grateful that I've learned more about the actual principles and how to apply them versus just kind of following my own gut instinct of, I know I need to have a goal. I know I need to have a plan, and I'm going to go after it with everything I have. That led for me personally, that didn't work. That it did in the sense that I was super successful, maybe in the eyes of the public with a professional career as an executive, as with a great family, wonderful kids, a nice house, all of those things that we maybe think of as success in the physical world. But I did feel inside like I was exhausted, burned out, maybe a little envious or jealous of others that might have looked like they were living a happier life. I feel like I still had some work to do on the inside, and that's where the last year has really helped me do that.
Wow. Wow. So Liz, you and I, we've probably been knowing each other for about over a year, I
Yeah.
believe. And I remember maybe about 3 or 4 months back, I saw Liz, and I believe it was you were leading a self-discipline camp, and
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, look at her change, like from where whenever we started studying together, like until 3 or 4 months back. Wow, I've seen the growth, your confidence. So I do applaud you for that. I'm
Thanks,
so
Nick. That means a
happy.
lot because sometimes when you're in the midst of changing and growing and working on yourself, even like if you're trying to lose weight, you feel like, gosh, I'm working hard. I'm practicing these principles, or I'm, watching whatever it is, whatever you're trying to change,
Yes.
you do it so gradually that sometimes you don't really notice it yourself. And so it's great to be in a community where you're supported and you have people cheering you on, and then also people that can recognize the change in you. And so I had people like you just shared, as well as, my direct supervisor at work. He noticed that he's like, you've always been positive, but there's just something different about you. Or my friends and family, like I can tell that you're just happier or that you're more at peace.
Wow.
And so that is reassuring to me that the time I'm spending on studying, as well as getting up early in the morning, because I was always a night owl and now I'm not. Now I get up at 5:15. Um, that has really been worth it. And you start to see the fruits of that labor, and that feels good.
That's
Yes,
incredible.
yes, it does.
Wow. Very nice.
Julie, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I have a comment because I'm a night owl and I'm not getting, yeah, I still do the night owl thing. For my self-discipline camp, a lot of times I'll call into like the UK at,
Mhm,
12:30 Eastern time in the morning when I'm
mhm.
like on a walk or something like that. And I like kind of enjoy like the movement of walking and stuff, but I did like 30 days doing that, which is interesting, and then I will go and do in the morning like my own study like
Mhm.
properly, but just to tune in like still when I'm like walking with them. But yeah, I can't say enough about the self-discipline camp. I think that's one of it's just so amazing what that can do for you. 30 days in there. Woo.
Yep. This is my
Yeah.
1 year anniversary actually this
Oh
week.
wow, that's
So
This week.
awesome.
I think that makes it kind of special too. I know I missed a handful here and there with trips and travel, maybe, some sickness in there. But I would tell you that it's been a game changer for me. Like I said, like I was somebody who really valued my alone time. I have 3 kids, married, work full time. My work comes home with me sometimes. It's not like one of those positions where you can just shut your computer at the end of the day and you're done. And so I would kind of get everybody to sleep and then I would have my alone time and I valued that. But then I would stay up too late. I would sleep as late as I could. I would push snooze a few times. Then I would be running late and be frazzled and crazy and trying to get
Wow.
everybody out the door and dressed and ready and off to school and then off to work. And then my days just kind of felt that way, chaotic and stressed. And so I decided to be open-minded about it after I attended a live event last February in Omaha and made that commitment for 30 days, and it just stuck. And what I've noticed is even a few of my friends and that are on the call, they still, listen from their bed, don't have their journals out. And one of them changed this week to showing up in person with cameras on and 5:15, unless I'm teaching, I'm just in my bathrobe, no hair, no makeup. So I want people to feel like they can just show up as themselves. No one cares. We're there to learn and grow. But this week she's been showing up with her camera on and her journal, and she shared with me it's so much more powerful. You really
Wow.
feel the vibration of the group differently when you're actively participating in the chat discussions and the eye contact. And that really helps me get out of bed because I know if I don't, my day is not going to go as easy and effortless. There's going to be some grind to it. There's going to be some stress or some curveballs, and I'm not going to be able to adapt to those as well with good peace of mind or even just clarity of thought. I've noticed that I just feel stronger and more decisive when I do my morning ritual around self-discipline camp. And then I have about 30 minutes before I have to wake up children. So it used to be an hour. Now it's 30 minutes because somebody has class earlier. I used to call it my power hour. And in that hour after self-discipline camp, I felt like I was literally had superpowers. Like I could get so much accomplished. If it was chores around the house, if it was maybe some emails that are hanging over my head that I really needed to word right, make sure that I was persuasive or explained a tough situation well enough, I could do that kind of work right after self-discipline camp and get a head start on my day. A lot of times I'd get downloads from the journaling time in self-discipline camp that would give me ideas of how to handle a tough situation with a team member or at work, or as I start to look at how I want to help people learn these principles, I would get some ideas. And so that time really became precious to me. And that's what really helped motivate me, Julie, to start getting up in the morning because I realized it was more powerful than my evening time I had alone. I was more energized and productive, and that was satisfying to me.
Yes, don't get me wrong. I totally agree with the getting up
Yeah,
at the 5:30 in the morning, and I have done that on multiple
yeah.
30-day occasions. But yeah,
No judgment, because I think once
no,
my
no.
kids are out of the house, I might be calling in on Pacific time.
But to your point, like it does and I know like when I do that in the morning, when I go to the morning camp, you're absolutely right. You
Yeah.
are set up for your day. I just happen to be a person that sometimes has trouble turning off
Yep.
at night. So for me,
Hmm.
it's just a way to sort of,
Yeah.
come back to center after
Oh yeah.
the day.
I think that's really important to listen to your own body and know yourself well enough
Yes.
for, figuring out what works for you.
Yeah, for sure. All
Now,
right.
now I will say, Julie not only like walks for a good time at night, past 12 p.m. Like she's already up when it's like 7 o'clock. She's already like, I'm like, does Julie rest? I
Five
wonder how long
hours.
she sleeps.
Oh,
So
I wish I was that way. Sometimes
I
I
was
am
not
just on a
that
busy
way.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't always like that. I used to need like 8 to 10, and now I'm
Mhm.
like, my body just wakes up after 5 hours and I'm good to go.
That's awesome.
Back
so
to
Liz,
Liz.
I think that the more we can get the information out about, having a strong morning routine, the better. I think a lot of even social influencers are starting to put out their morning routine. I see even, on Instagram, a lot of my daughter's friends that they follow are starting to talk a little bit more about the importance of a morning routine. So I think the awareness of it is starting to come, but some habits are just so ingrained in people and
yeah,
they like how Earl Nightingale says, a lot of people just conform to what other people do. And so it's easier to sometimes conform to the 95% than the 5%. So, I think it's Mother Teresa that says, if you want to change the world, start with your family. So it's really setting a good example at home. And I know you do that. I've heard you talk about how you do that with your kids too. But I love it when I'm coming up from my morning routine and my 12-year-old son is eating breakfast and he's humming, Faith's hymn that we
Oh
play at
yeah.
self-discipline, or we play I Am Light a lot, and he will sing it to me as a joke,
but
but he
he's
knows the words, and that's all that I really care about because I know they're getting in his subconscious mind. I know that he knows it's important to start his day out that way. My older daughter and I have a book that sometimes the Nebraska or the Central Zone Self-Discipline Camp will read. It's Jesus Speaks, and we will open it up and I'll read it and I'll be like, wow, this really hit me. And she'll read it, or maybe she'll read it out loud some mornings. So I feel like these little things that I'm starting with my family will help them set them up for success, and maybe they'll influence some of their friends. But I agree with you. If we could get more people to really think about how to set up their day with intention, they would have so much less stress and chaos in their day-to-day life.
For
yeah,
sure. And I
yeah.
guess along those lines, you mentioned the subconscious mind. Um, do you, I'm sorry, yeah, do you believe we can condition our minds like to align in a way for success? Obviously, I know the answer to you're going to say it's yes. So why don't you just tell us how
Yes,
you
I
do that?
do, but I will say I was a little slow to believe that,
Okay.
only because I am a doer, an activator is kind of the Gallup strength. Gallup is big here in Nebraska. And so a lot of us have taken our strengths test. So I like to get things done. And then, working 20 years or more in public relations, you tend to become, in event planning, you tend to become kind of a control freak. And so, even though I have a strong faith in religion, kind of having that faith that I'm learning that the subconscious mind has a lot of power and it can be, um, I don't want to say controlled, but can be influenced, by the thoughts that I'm putting into it, by what I'm listening to, what I'm studying, has been really reassuring that I have more control over maybe how my life is forming. But it was new to me, like the stick man, learning about the stick man. I really loved that lesson because it was helping me see it visually. I'm a visual learner,
Yes.
that my conscious mind is my thoughts and my subconscious mind is my feelings. Both of those can come into my body and affect my frequency. And then that frequency kind of, it does, tend to help me attract either positive or negative things based on what I'm thinking about. And so that was really encouraging. And sometimes I have to really, I mean, we're humans, so we have to kind of mind our garden is kind of the other analogy they've used a lot at Napoleon Hill is, weeds will grow. And so I have to
Yes, they will.
almost, sometimes I even like go into my head and pretend I'm pulling one out because those thoughts are ingrained. I'm 50 years old, so they've been in there a long time. So I got to keep pulling those roots out and thinking about new positive thoughts or wishes and dreams that I have and keep believing.
I'm glad you mentioned that, the stick man, because that's, I think, very foundational to,
Mhm.
what we learn about our thoughts and how our minds work and everything
Yeah.
all in conjunction. But just for our viewers, it's Dr. Thurman Fleet had developed what he called a mind model. And so if anybody wanted to research that, would be Dr. Thurman Fleet, mind model, also known as the stick man. And I think that's a really powerful lesson. I'm going to just put a plug in for a book I read that
Mhm.
was based on that model called The Subconscious Code. And that was
Mm.
written
Oh, interesting.
by Troy Chadwick and Dolly Alessandra Ella Vitality. And
Mhm.
to me, when I read that, it just really did such a beautiful job of explaining, just the two minds, the mind, the subconscious mind, the conscious mind, and the body, and just how your thoughts,
Yeah.
influence, like create feelings, produce actions, like all of that. And it just goes into it like so well. So if you come across anybody who's like struggling to kind of understand that, or you need additional resources to give for people to help them out, I would strongly recommend that book, and it is available on Amazon. So
Thanks.
just to
Yeah, thanks,
put
Julie.
that out there, the
Yeah.
information is,
Yeah.
everywhere, and we've got to pull it all together and use, the best of the stuff that's out there. But thank you so
Yes.
much for bringing that up, because that's, I think foundational to everything that we talk about. And, even in the beginning of Think and Grow Rich, I think the first thing that they says is thoughts are things. Thoughts are
Hmm.
things,
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
So that book, The Subconscious Code, really goes into that element of it, and
Mm.
it does a great job with that. So
We had
awesome.
a women's
Wow.
event this weekend and we brought up uh, the doctor's stick man with the group. We called her the stick chick
The
just to
stick
kind of like
check.
help them relate to her a little bit more.
That's
And
awesome.
and it was a great just refresher about of the entire body of work that he did, literally the body of work that he
Yes.
did. But we like the phrase stick chick these days,
I think that's
just for
awesome.
fun.
I am totally going to adopt that with you.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. And then I want to move into an area discussing more of like um, your planning
Yeah.
around your day. Like, we're focused on desire this month. That's really what, our kind of topic that we're honing in on. And,
Mhm.
we talk about having that desire, but part of that is also putting, that plan into
Mhm.
action. So I wanted to ask you if you could share your experience kind of with this step. How did you develop your own definite plan? And in what ways has having a clear plan um, really positively impacted your ability to reach your goals?
Mm.
Or any, please,
Yeah.
too, because we're keeping this real and human. So
Mhm.
any challenges that you've had
Mhm.
around that too, or anything, I bet would be hugely beneficial too. So,
Yeah. So planning's a great question to ask me, I guess, because, when you are in public relations and event planning, you just get, that planning is a complete necessity of life. And so I am a planner and I've always been a planner, even when I was in high school. So that part of desire or that definiteness of purpose was not really as challenging for me because I find it fun. I mean, one of the reasons
Mm.
I'm exploring coaching is my favorite part of my job is helping my team become better at what their jobs are, but also to help them dream a little bit and put together their development plans for what they want to accomplish both professionally and personally. That's where I light up at work. So for me, and keep in mind, I'm a corporate person. 30 years in corporate America will make you really look at the calendar as a finite amount of time. So I've always done a lot of planning that week between Christmas and New Year's. I've just always done that since I was in high school. And I carried that through college and through my professional life of thinking about how the year went, and honestly, in the past, looking at it probably more with a critical eye and with some negative self-talk and a lot more criticism than I do today. Now it's more of actually looking at my camera reel because I take a ton of photos. Heck, I'm a mom of three. I'm always taking photos. And so looking through the camera reel, both from work experiences and personal things, to really see all the different experiences I had and all the successes that I had. And then I chopped it up to what are the learnings that I had versus what I didn't get done. And so that mindset change of 2024 was really important. But like I said, I was always doing something similar to that since I was in high school. And then once I get done with that process, I think about like what I really want to accomplish that next year and start to kind of write out those goals. And that has changed too since, going through Napoleon Hill, that now I align, I have my chief aim, and I try to kind of line up my goals with that, both professionally, personally, family wise. I look at all the dimensions that really make up my life and make my life how I want my life to be fulfilling, and start to look at those different dimensions and how I can make incremental changes to make those dimensions stronger and better. And
Wow.
that has really helped me. And then my calendar drives my life. My assistant and my team would tell you that. So calendar blocking is really important to me. So, whether it's the self-discipline call on the calendar at 5:30, whether it's some planning or strategic time throughout the day, um, whether it's reminders once a quarter to go back and reflect on how the last 90 days went, and then looking ahead at the next 90 days. And that really helps me, stay on top of all the different things that I'm balancing as somebody who works full time, is, doing some coaching, teaching, and helping people, but also taking care of my family and
Come
my
on.
community responsibilities. So that's what really helps me, is the planning. Now, I would tell you too, getting I'll brainstorm around, if that's my goal, I'll brainstorm, or what Napoleon Hill would call use your imagination, that workshop of the
I
mind.
like
I call
that.
it brainstorming like ideas of maybe people I need to meet, people that might be able to help me, um, maybe some technology that I need to learn, maybe some different ways of looking at reports at work so that I can tell my story better at work or help my team accomplish more things more effectively. So they might not be all bulleted out, all organized, but they'll be in that journal page as ideas. And then, every day you just try to take a little bit of inspired action on things. Did I eat well? Did I drink enough water? Did I read something that it's helping me move closer to my phase two certification? Am I doing anything to help my family or my home be more peaceful? Those kinds of things help me just stay on top of my plans that I make to help me accomplish my chief aim.
That's awesome. I want to dive into a little further
Wow.
to something you had said. You had talked about, all these different dimensions of your
Yeah.
life.
Yep.
It seems that these principles work in all areas,
They
right?
do. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
mean, we look at the book like Think and Grow Rich, and I think sometimes people think, well, it's just about the money, but that's one thing it can be about, but that's
Right.
not the only thing. So I love that you brought out, that how this kind of targets all of those areas of your life. Like when you started using these principles, you saw improvement in multiple aspects of
Yes.
your life, not just related to your career, not just related to your earning potential or something like that, but as related to your whole persona, like how you look
Yes.
through the world. And,
Yes.
that's actually like changing you as a human, I
Mhm.
think that's really fascinating. I think it's important to talk about that just because sometimes the title is misleading. I don't want to say
Mhm.
misleading because you can think and grow rich, but I'm just saying it's maybe too limiting in the fact that people don't always understand the full definition of rich. Like we're not just talking wealth here, we're talking peace of mind, you know?
Correct. I think that's really important because, obviously, as a parent, I want to work hard and I want to, you know, bring in enough money to take care of my family and to let us live a nice life. I want to make sure I can put my kids through college. I want to create memorable experiences for them. And all of that takes money. My husband and I, we also like to give back to the community, and all of that takes money. So, that is part of it, but it's not a huge motivator for me, like on how I want my life to be. Of course, I would love to be rich. Who wouldn't want to be rich, But at the same time, I feel really fortunate and grateful. I've had some of that success already professionally, that I'm really looking for how do I grow rich in all aspects of my life. And what I mean by that is, and we can talk about it when we get to some adversity conversations, but I've had some health challenges. And so I know how critical good health is. You can't enjoy your life if you don't have your health. And I didn't understand that until I almost had my health taken away. And so, that has caused me not only to take better care of myself, but it's making me, look at everything from what I'm eating and drinking and consuming, even, you know, reading and watching on TV,
Mhm.
to moving my body. That is a huge part of what was missing for me as somebody who worked a lot during COVID and has a desk job. There's also, we mentioned professional growth, and that does include money, but it also includes like job satisfaction and helping people that you work with day in and day out. And how can you make their lives better? And then there is home life, is what I call it. Like, I want a peaceful, loving home. How do I make that happen? How do I make sure, things get put away and that we're organized and that people feel relaxed and calm and we can grow and create more love in our home and in our family life? So those are just some of the dimensions that I look at. Mental health is a part of that, spiritual health is a part of that, but really looking at all the things that make up your life and how can you make them, you don't want to have way too many goals, but how can you do some things to make sure that you're moving the arrow in the right direction in all those dimensions, because they all build on each other. And when they all kind of are in flow, you really can feel it in your body and in
Yes.
your mind and in your spirit. And then that helps you, I think, be more open to opportunities, and you start to feel like you are attracting better things in life too, and that you feel like you are making a difference in other people's lives. That to me is really more motivating than, a check.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think Nick feels that way too.
Yeah, I think
I,
Wow,
I
that's impressive.
enjoy, sorry, go ahead, Julie.
No, you go.
Well, I was just going to mention, like whenever I'm consulting someone a business, after each session, I leave fired up. I leave filled, and so that's my passion, is really making an impact in the lives of others. And so like that's what Cleona always mentions, stoke the fire, right? Like our burning desire, what we really desire in life. And with the title Think and Grow Rich, just like Julia mentioned, yeah, a lot of people are just like, oh, it's just about money. But when Napoleon Hill lists the 12 riches, economic success or financial success is the last one that he mentions. And so I think it's a lot like in all aspects of our life, our relationship, our business, our career, our health, our contributions, our fun free time for because it's definitely important for us to have free time and
Mhm.
turn it down for a little bit.
Yeah, and I love that Earl Nightingale talks about the things that are really the most precious gems are those things that are free in life, whether it's, love or, time with God or being outside. I mean, if you really think about the things that make life special, a lot of them are free, but
Yes, they
priceless.
are. Yes, they
Absolutely.
are.
Like moonlight.
Yes,
I don't have to pay a cent for that, but I love it.
me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Have you created this fixation in your own mind? Like, because step one in the six steps to create a burning desire, Napoleon Hill mentions create in your mind a fixation of that what you want. I like to say of money or success.
Mhm.
So so my question, how did you create this fixation in your mind?
So for me, I think if I look back at my life, like when I was maybe a young professional, I knew I wanted to live in a certain neighborhood in our city. I knew that I wanted to be a vice president of, public relations someday or a CMO or something in that field as an executive. Um, I knew that I wanted a family. So those are things that were in my mind and I could feel them. Now, did I question them along the way? Of course. I mean, I think I even went through a phase where I was like, do I want kids? Yes, I definitely did. And so I knew that. And for me, I would think about and dream in the car, in the shower. Like I would find my mind wandering a lot to the future. Probably sometimes I would think I thought it was too much, but as I'm learning, that's just really called visualization, not daydreaming.
Yeah.
So for me, that was almost reassuring to learn that that was a good thing because I was already doing that. And I can remember so many evenings right after my husband and I got married, and this is like 24 years ago, us walking through the neighborhood that we wanted to live in and dreaming about living there someday.
Wow.
And I think that made it really real for me. And, um, you know, you want to be able to talk about it and see yourself there and visualize yourself there. And, even the school that we sent our kids to, I dreamed about having my kids attend that elementary school. And I knew that, that would probably require a move and I would figure out how to do that. And those were just dreams that I had. And I knew that it would all work out. And it did. But it came with hard work and it came with, you know, a plan and persistence. But it really started with what do I want my life to look like? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to, how do I want to design my life for myself and for my family?
Wow, Liz.
One of my favorite podcasters is Ed Milet, and he always talks about the importance of touching your dream. And so when I heard him say that, I realized that's what I was doing 20 plus years ago when I was walking through my neighborhood. I was touching my dream.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I also sort of like you didn't really know what like going to high school and college would be like. And so, even when our kids were in middle school, we started going to high school sporting events or high school music concerts because I wanted the kids to see like this is what's in their life 2 to 3 years from now. Maybe
Yes.
they can be part of the swing choir, or maybe they can play varsity basketball, and having them see that there is a process and the reason that they're practicing piano right now or the reason that they go to club basketball 3 nights a week is because these are things that they can do if they want to, no pressure. These are just opportunities that are available to them. And the same even with college. I'm lucky enough to have a great university in my hometown, the University of Nebraska. we would go down and drive through campus after church and let them see what a
Yes.
campus looked like.
Yes.
Sometimes we would go to a church service on campus, or we would go to, the College of Business right before a football game and just walk around so they could visualize it and have some point of reference. So when somebody asks them, what are you thinking about for college? They have something in their mind at a younger age that they can even point to because they've experienced it or they've touched their dream.
I love that touching my dream. I haven't heard that before, but I love that. But it goes, I think, in line with like living, as if living from the end.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So when you're making it real to you in your present moment, you're, giving some tangible feeling behind that. You're really like experiencing it and kind of getting into the spirit of it
Yeah,
for, lack of a better term. I think that's really cool.
thanks.
Awesome.
I remember when my middle son was about maybe 14 years old. We were just driving. I guess I had just picked him up from school,
Hmm.
and just all of a sudden, next thing you know, I pulled into a firefighter station, and my son said, "What are we doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. Let's just go talk to the firefighters. Maybe you might want to. This is what you might want to become." So I started that at 14, and there's no question about it. He's going to be a firefighter. He's in the army right now, but coming out of the army, that's like there's nothing else that he wants to do.
Oh, I
So
love that.
just,
Yeah,
just
you let him touch his dream. You exposed him to something that really stuck with him. That's awesome.
yeah,
I love that you, both of you, it seems, to share this information with your children, and try to instill this in them, or at least, you're building these practices into their mind, like fostering their imaginations. And,
Mhm.
because all the time, like in school, a lot of times that gets just sort of squashed and crushed out of you. But to see that you're able to do this with your children is really beautiful. And, I've had to have like conversations with my daughter where I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't know really how to like, have better thoughts, how to program your mind a little bit better than, mine had been done. And I really, I don't like to say I have any regrets in life, but I do feel like I could have been better there. And that is one thing that bothers me because, this is like my daughter's life, and I know that I haven't instilled in her all of the things that I wish I could just kind of transplant in there. Like I know that now she sees me and, sees a different person and whatnot, or, how I am able to handle just things in a whole different way. But
Mhm.
I think the impact of having that growing up with the principles like in your family and being instilled and being encouraged, because it really is for me at least, it has been a whole reprogramming of
yeah.
my mind. And to start that process, a couple years before turning 50,
Mhm.
that's a lot to unwind in
You
there,
started before me, Julie,
you
so
know?
you're fine. I started like 3 months before I turned 50. So
Okay.
but I think you're doing that now. Like I think you're showing her that it's
Yes.
never too late.
Right.
You're showing her that, the best is yet to come. And I think in our culture, in our society, sometimes it's like, you better get things done before you're old and dried up, blah, 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 whatever it
That's
is.
such a
And that's
great
not true.
point. That
Yeah,
is
it's not true. I
when I
mean,
started, I know this is about you, Liz, but you're bringing up all these awesome points that are making me like think about everything.
while
But
you're thinking about it, I would share with you, like, even another famous Nebraskan, Warren Buffett, he made most of his
Wow.
fortune after he was 50.
after
Yeah.
And
50,
so,
yeah.
yes, and I think there's some sort of meme out on social media that lists all these Hollywood people or, just influencers like Martha Stewart and others that
Yes.
really built their careers after 50. And so, we were talking about planning earlier. One of my peers, who's in the central zone as well, Linda Lovelace, she challenged me to think, like, okay, Liz, it's your 50th birthday. I want you to pick an adjective to describe what you want your 50s to look like. And everybody always says the 50s are fabulous, whatever. But I said, I like the alliteration of that, and I'm going to go with that because I want them to be fabulous. But she's challenged me to journal. What does that mean to me?
Mm,
What does
right.
the fabulous 50s
Wow.
mean to me? And I did something, what Nick said earlier, people say, what do you want to do in 5 to 10 years? I really always kind of blew that off in the past. I'd have a vision of where I wanted to be, but that specific, I didn't. And so I did kind of map out, 24 all the way to 2034. And I
Okay.
wrote what milestones will be coming in the next 10 years. My three kids will graduate from high school. They will graduate from college. One or two might get married. Like these are major life things that are happening in the next, 10 years. I hope to retire. Um, Things like that, where I needed to really almost plot it out in a timeline so that
Mm,
not to scare myself that there's only so much, time, but almost to light that passion and that desire. Like you said, Cleona says, stoke the fire. It was stoking my fire to map it out on a timeline of the things that I knew were coming. And then
wow.
if I want to do any travel, I know we want to, go to Europe someday, or we want to celebrate my husband's 50th birthday in Mexico, plotting those bigger trips out, figuring out what do I want these fabulous 50s to look like.
Mm.
And that, I think is an example again that we can set for our friends or our kids to be intentional about how we want to design our life.
Absolutely. I think that's so, and you know what? It's so practical,
Yeah.
right? Like that's really practical advice too. Like you can look at this and you can kind of just like map it out and look at that. And then to just go in and say, you know what? I'm writing the script on this. Like literally, like I'm writing it out. This is what I want. And you are scripting your whole life for you. But yeah, to your point, just back to the 50s, like I feel like when I embraced this and started using it, I felt almost like reborn. But I'm
Yes.
not really like a religious person. I'm definitely spiritual. But so like I don't mean it in like that context, but I mean I feel like alive. I
Hmm.
feel like the energy of, like the 5-year-old child. Like I feel just, completely like the whole world is just like here for me to, have opportunity. And like it's just a
Yes.
whole like I really felt like reawakened
Yeah.
into my
You
own,
were. You
and that I
were.
had like I'm like,
Yes,
oh
you
my
were.
gosh, I have some agency. Like I really can steer this ship
Yeah,
and
and there's so much
point
to
it in a
learn.
different
I think
direction.
that's what's just fascinating. There is so much to learn if you really want to, increase your awareness, like what you were talking about.
Earlier, I heard Liz. She didn't mention the word paradigm, but that's what I heard when you were mentioning. And it's the paradigms that are in our environment when we were growing up. So we don't naturally know, especially any material like this, because it's so rich. So
Yeah,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say the paradigm. I had never really heard of that phrase before this experience with Napoleon Hill. I've heard of limiting beliefs, and I'm starting to hear that phrase more and more just in mainstream, which I think is exciting. Um, because you're right. I mean, we limit ourselves more than anybody else limits us.
Yes, we do.
And for me, I have always, we talked a lot about planning and success, but I did have negative self-talk, and I did, you know, um, kind of grow up in the 90s and 2000s in the corporate world where I was young and wasn't always taken seriously. Maybe
Mm.
sometimes people thought I was just too much fun and not enough strategy in place. So I fought a lot of stereotypes. So I always felt like I had to work harder and harder. I even in politics, I'd shared with you, Julie, that was, something that my husband and I have done for years together. I had somebody in the party once tell me I'll be nothing but the prom queen of the party, like no substance, just
Mm.
Wow.
beauty, which is flattering to a certain extent, but also very offensive.
Yeah.
And it starts to get in your subconscious mind that you won't do more than what people think of you. And so, I felt like I had to constantly prove myself over and over, and that, started to create me to work long hours, make sure that I was outshining other people. When we go through a corporate restructure, that I would, win those interviews so that I would stay on and be the best that I could be, and I would prepare, prepare, prepare. And, that workaholic behavior and that stress really generated a lot of burnout. But then, it also affected my health. And last year, a year ago, Cleona O'Hara came out to Omaha and she picked me out of the crowd. And I don't mind a stage. Don't get me wrong. I love to speak in front of people, but I don't like to talk about my feelings in front of people. And
Wow.
she got me on
See,
stage and said, "So Liz, tell me why you're a workaholic." Like she
She
could sense that
yeah,
she
just
didn't
from
even
meeting
know
me.
you.
she's amazing, isn't she?
She is.
Yeah.
She really
But
is.
I went through kind of all of those hoops of, negative self-talk and fighting my way in corporate America, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, Liz, this is so much older than college or high school. This is so much older. And I really didn't know how to respond. She's like, tell me when you think this started. And I finally just said, I have no idea, Cleona. Like I have great parents. Yes, my mom was a PE teacher and she loved sports, so competition was in our house. Yes, my dad was in sales, so working hard was part of our culture, but they were loving and supportive. So I didn't know what she was talking about. And then she had me close my eyes and she like tapped me on my forehead, and my elementary school hallway popped in my mind.
Wow.
And I didn't even know what to do about that. I thought, gosh, maybe I've needed therapy for 40 years. But after I unpacked it, I realized I did have a great childhood and I had a great elementary life school experience. So if any of my teachers are watching this or listening to this, it was great, but it's kind of like the institution itself.
Hmm.
Like I started to feel invisible. I wasn't getting picked for things. And I can remember like a tape in my head. Like if I go back far enough, um, I didn't get picked for this. I'll just work a little bit harder so I stand out more. I didn't get picked for that. I'll just keep working a little bit harder because the teacher will notice me. And then, they go through who's gifted and non-gifted, and Liz got put in the non-gifted class. And I remember thinking they made a mistake. I know that I'm special and they made a mistake. I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to outwork those gifted kids. And that's literally how I think I've been since I was 5 years old. And then when I got into my 40s, that same behavior was taking over, from my subconscious mind. Um, and it was
Wow,
it
that's
was showing up more as being a workaholic and staying up late to finish things or working ahead or over preparing or stressing to the point of my body just kind of gave out during the pandemic, because I think I was taking problems and issues and fixing them and wrapping them up in a cute bow and then tucking them in my back pocket in my
mm,
low back and putting them away or hiding them in my back pocket, like not physically, but
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
in my spiritual emotional body, to the point where I had two back surgeries in 2021, at S1 or L5S1. And since then, I've had over 100 physical therapy appointments to really get my
My
body
goodness.
back to being strong and healthy and vibrant. And that was really a hard, hard journey to go through. But I didn't take care of myself during it for years because I was always putting, whether it was work or family or other responsibilities, I was always putting myself last. And that's one message I guess I wanted to get out to your listeners, that you have to do this work so that you start to identify what those paradigms are for you. Maybe it's workaholism, like what I experienced, but maybe it's something else that's just holding you back from really having the quality of life that you want to have.
Wow.
I'm like, I have to be speechless for a minute because you're just like putting into me, like just looking at this in a different way that I haven't like quite considered. And it's like playing around in my mind. So I can't wait to like re-watch this again when I don't have to like ask a question next or something, because you said a lot to me that just really resonated. And I need to kind of unpack that in my own mind
Yeah.
to
No, I
respond to
hear
it, but
you.
I feel like the power behind it.
Well, I think, and Nick, I know I don't mean this to sound like, I think women particularly, I don't want to make a blanket statement, particularly always put themselves last. I know a lot of men do too, or they feel a great sense of responsibility. But and I don't want to use that as an excuse ever, but more so like even 2 years later, I thought I just needed readers. I never wore glasses or contacts before and thought, well, now I'm getting to that age. I better get my readers. Well, my right eye just kind of kept getting worse. And I thought, oh, age, whatever. And then my son, who had perfect vision too, failed his eye test at school. And of course, I make an appointment for him right away.
But not,
I mean, like within
Right.
like three
5
days.
minutes.
Yes. We were
Really?
in there getting his eyes checked, and his eyes were fine. They were perfect 2020. And in that moment, I knew that God would only get me to the eye
Wow.
doctor through my
Wow.
son. And so I said, I think it's me that you're actually supposed to see. And when my eye doctor looked at my eye, she's like, we need to get you to an ophthalmologist. Your right cornea, the pumps inside have stopped working. And lo and behold, I learned that I probably got a virus at some point, probably when I was run down or burned out or running on fumes, and could have solved this issue with some quick eye drops if I would have gone in. But instead, I let it go for a couple years. I know I was distracted with my back injuries at the time, but I ended up having a partial cornea transplant in my right eye. And you are awake for that surgery, so it is not fun. You are under a cover and your eyeball is showing. And
Oh,
unfortunately, I
wow.
had to have that surgery twice. The
Oh,
first one failed on the operating table, and you could hear the doctor. He was trying his best to get the transplanted tissue in, and it would not stay flat. It would not go in. And he was getting frustrated. I was getting frustrated. I could start to feel it because the medicine was wearing off. And I
Ooh,
had to basically go out with an eye patch on for the next 2 weeks while it healed until they could do it again.
mm,
And then the
goodness.
second one worked. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for the support system I had because I did not know these principles then. But I had, physical therapists with me with my back, and I had other health coaches around me with my weight and my back and my eye. And they had enough positivity to get me through that really dark period. But later on, when I had my follow up with my doctor, I asked him, like, tell me about the donor, because now I'm all curious about organ donors and how amazing they are and how lucky I am to have somebody that donated his eyes. And he said, well, all I can tell you is he was a 60-year-old male. And I said, well, I'm going to name him Earl. And so I have a 60-year-old man's cornea in my right eye. And I said, Earl, we're going to have quite an adventure. And about 6 months later, I got introduced to Napoleon Hill Institute, and I met Earl Nightingale videos for the first time in my life. And I thought, wow, things do
Wow.
happen for a
you
reason.
sure
Because
do.
now I have two Earls in my life, the one in my right eye and the one that I watch on YouTube.
Oh my gosh,
Wow.
that's incredible. Oh, I just want to
That-
follow up, since we were talking about kind of that adversity and working through that and how you've done that. Like, what advice would you give to someone who's really kind of like in the thick of their own struggle right now? Maybe they're feeling lost or tired or uncertain
Yeah.
about their future, but maybe they're experiencing a medical challenge and they're not exposed to these principles and whatnot. What, from your experience and your learning through all of that, what can you share about
Yeah.
that?
I think with the back injury and the eye, I really did get depressed after the second surgery. I did lose hope. Um, that pain is so hard. So my heart goes out to anyone who's dealing with pain, because it not only zaps your energy, it affects your relationships, it affects your outlook on life. And so I was so lucky that I had a great support system around me with my family and my parents and my in-laws. And but also I had you have to find professionals that can help you. So I was so fortunate. I remember sitting in my physical therapist's office saying, I don't have any more hope. And she said, I have enough hope for both of us. So I think that's really important if you're going through something. And I'm sorry to get so emotional, but I
No,
believe it
please.
so
Oh,
You don't
much.
have to apologize at all. This is
yeah.
real.
Um, yeah, you really do need a community around you. We're not meant to go through life alone. You
Absolutely
need
not.
somebody there to help you. And if you are alone, that you might have to pay for it, whether it's a coach or for me, I knew I wanted to lose weight and get healthier after my back so that I wouldn't injure myself again. So I had to get a wellness coach and it all costs money. So I had to figure out other things that I could cut out because this was important to the foundation of my life is your
Yeah,
health. And
absolutely.
so having positive people that believe and have hope and are going to be with you along the journey really help. Obviously, I believe in God. Growing your faith, was there times I doubted it? Of course, we're humans. But really having that time to pray and to think. When I was strong enough, I leaned on other communities that I was a part of. My yoga community came around me during that time. My work community was very supportive, and I'm grateful for that. If you are going through a time, you need to really ask for help. And what I learned is people want to help. I think we as Americans, especially, don't like to ask for help.
Mhm.
We're taught we need to pull up ourselves by our own bootstraps. And if you ask for help, that's a sign of weakness. But, when you ask for help, I had people bringing meals to my family. Um, my husband was driving all the kids to all their activities because I couldn't. You become a lot more grateful too for the people that are in your life. And then when they go through something, you want to help them.
Oh, yes.
And so that makes me, we had a fellow coach in Texas go through something similar. And right when I found out she was going through that, I'm like, what can I do to help you? Like, how can I help you? Because I know what that pain feels like, and I don't wish that on anyone.
Well, that's
And you'll
terrible.
get through this. You'll get through this. It's a finite amount of time. And I think that's important to keep in mind too. It's not a forever. It's a finite period of time. You do have to work, to get out of it. So whether it's resting, which was what I needed to do for a while with my back, which was hard for me as
Yeah.
a doer.
Hmm.
As a
That's why I
doer,
had to
you
have
are.
two because I went back to doing things too quickly. Or if it's physical therapy, or if it's walking every day and not sitting in front of the computer too long, or if it's making sure that you're getting enough rest, whatever it is, that's where I learned to have a new relationship with the word discipline. I always hated that word.
Yeah.
I felt like it sounded like rules and like I would get in trouble if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I did get in trouble and I was getting disciplined. But now I love that word because it's discipline in my life that helps me stay healthy, strong, and vibrant, or it helps me stay focused, clear, and energized. And I have a new relationship with that word. And that's kind of what you were talking about earlier, Julie. Julie, you feel empowered and almost reborn because of that.
Absolutely. Well, that's incredibly powerful, Liz, all that you're sharing with us. And I mean, just to like feel that emotion and see it coming off of you. I mean, that this is real. This is real life, you know,
Yes.
working through this and, being able to find um, those connections, your community, and just really digging into inside yourself, finding something, that you can ground yourself with and stuff. And just you really explained that so beautifully. Thank you for sharing with
Um,
us.
Well, and on a positive side too, if you're trying to, have success, that's where community comes into play too. I mean, I have a mastermind on Monday mornings, and even when you're thinking about like your big dreams and whatnot, and you might have some doubt creep in, even one of my peers in my mastermind said, I have enough hope for both of us. And when she said that, or lean on mine, I believe in you, lean on my belief.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I feel like I've heard that before when I was going through my back injury. This is weird, but I am going to lean on her belief
Yeah.
because sometimes, I'm a human and I will have doubt or I will have a weed pop in my mind and I'll pull it out and it might come back, but I need her support. I need that community around me so that I can keep going in a positive direction, not just through adversity, but even through the good stuff.
You know what I say to those weeds?
But
Pluck you.
I'm stealing that one, Julie. I like that one.
But
Sorry.
I agree with you, Liz, because like I tell my son like use my faith in you,
Yeah.
and I know Julie and I we've been working together pretty hard recently, and like Julie said something where I used her. She didn't say the words, but from how she was encouraging me, I used her faith. That way I can
Oh,
step out. So I
yeah.
think community and mastermind is definitely so crucial
Yeah.
to all of our successes.
Yeah, I do the same thing, Nick. Like if my daughter has a big day, where she's got to do something that's, maybe outside of her comfort zone, or even I had one of my employees, she had to go give a talk that I couldn't go to, and she was going to do it for me. I said, channel your inner LRC. I'm right there with you, and that's my initials, but I just
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I am there with you, and I believe in you so much that if you have any doubt, my energy is going to take over, and you're going to do
Wow.
awesome because I believe in you that much. You're going to do awesome. So I think, you know, again, we think we have to go through life alone and we got to prove ourselves, but that's just not how we were designed. We're designed to go through life together and be in community and help each other. And nothing's more fun, I feel like, than when a team has success or when you're helping someone grow and develop at work and you see them shine on a project. It's just awesome.
Oh, wow. That's incredible, Liz.
And I can feel your energy.
Yeah, I know. I have a final question
Yeah.
that it is just kind of a little bit different. We have a segment where we're gonna have like a principal playlist where we're gonna write and incorporate a little bit of music and stuff into this. So I wanted to know if you had a particular song, like a go-to song that kind of brings you to your purpose or speaks towards your
Mhm.
desire or just something that, and if not, if you don't have one that you kind of
I
relate
do.
to. Oh, yay. Let me have
I
it.
love music. And I felt so awesome because I don't know if you guys use Spotify, but at the end of the year, they gave us little prizes of who we listen to the most. And
Yeah,
I
your
love,
wrap up.
yeah, the wrap up. And when I got the video from Dua Lipa, I felt pretty awesome. I love her. I think
Oh,
her voice is amazing. And I don't know why it's the beat, but it's also a little bit about being free, and I think that's something I've learned the last year. I talked about grinding to the point of really affecting my health. Now it's been more about, letting life happen, but with my plan. It's like letting go a little bit. And Dance the Night Away is my favorite song. And if I put it on, I'm in a good
Play
mood.
yeah. And who is this? This is Dua Lipa?
it. Look
Dance party.
at
Liz, is that a Dua Lipa song?
And she just makes me happy. It makes me smile. It's from the Barbie movie. Go figure that. I love Barbie growing up, but it's just a happy song and it's high frequency. It makes me feel free. It makes me want to dance and move my body, and it puts me in a good mood.
Oh, awesome. That's so
Yeah.
great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What an incredible guest you
Thank
have
you.
been
Oh,
with us. Thank you so much for sharing this, your vulnerability with us and just the incredible knowledge that you have and the way that you are really incorporating these, and not even just incorporating, but like embracing and embodying them and just living through them. I think it's absolutely beautiful. And I'm just so happy to know you and be in this community with you, and so grateful that you had this agreed to be on our show and had this time with you. I know you're already have, and you're going to continue to impact so many
Oh
lives
man.
with just your energy, it's just everything. You're like just this presence of light and love, and
oh,
just
Just
please
vibrating.
let her go back out into the world so she can
oh,
help
thank you. I'm gonna have to call
everybody.
you when I'm doubting myself next time. But honestly, what a pleasure to spend time with you guys. I'm honored that you asked me, and I'm grateful that you're putting this kind of material out in the world for people to learn and grow. And like you said earlier, Nick, the more people that know this, the better their day-to-day life can be. And
Yes.
life is hard right now, and we need to be putting out more light into the world. And so you guys are doing that. Literally, you're putting out great information out into the world. So thanks for all you're doing.